Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
I'm Mike, and I sing for the band All Out War.
And Mike, how would you describe the music of All Out War?
I would say All Out War is a combination of a lot of things: death metal, black metal, hardcore, metallic hardcore. So it's definitely a mix of a lot of different styles of heavy music.
And I should mention, Mike has been on the podcast once before in 2019 when we spoke about your previous album, Crawl Among the Filth. We had a long conversation about the history of the band and not just Crawl Among the Filth, but your first two albums, Truth and the Age of Lies and For Those Who Are Crucified. What have you been up to since 2019?
Well, 2019,
stuck at home,
right,
like the rest of us.
Right. It started off great. You know, we did a run with Integrity on the West Coast, and then we did another short run with I Hate God, and then back out with Integrity, and we were all set to go out with Ringworm, and then the world stopped. So started out with a blast, and then, you know, once we hit 2020, just like everybody else, we were locked down.
And we'll speak about this latest album that you guys have completed and is coming out in a week. But during that period when you were locked down, were you guys writing music? Did you get to do anything band related?
Yeah, that's when we wrote the record. The bulk of the record was written during the lockdown, so we had a lot of time on our hands. So you know, it gave us that creative outlet. So that was one positive thing, at least.
So the last time you were on, we spoke a lot about All Out War and the nature of your music and your relationship to, you know, both the hardcore and the metal scenes. We didn't speak a lot about the songwriting and how songs come together for you guys. How does an All Out War song typically start?
Usually it's a group effort, so we all contribute. So we have ideas from all of our influences, and then we kind of bring them all to the table, and then one of the guitar players will come up with a riff, and we'll sort of start pounding it out around that riff. So it's definitely a team effort. It always has been from the beginning of the band. So it doesn't work like one person writes everything, and then the rest of us just you know, go with it. It definitely is a group effort.
You mentioned riff writing. Does it always start with riff for you guys?
Yeah, most of the time it starts with the riff. It starts with the riff, and then I sort of make a vocal pattern around that, and then we just build upon the riff.
Right. So when you say you write as a group, are you guys in the room together, or is there a lot of like trading files over Dropbox and stuff like that?
Well, during COVID, it was all trading files over Dropbox. That's how we basically wrote the album. We came up with ideas. You know, we all shared things, and then we talked and said, well, you know, I'd like it to go this way. Somebody else would chime in and say, I would prefer to go a different direction. And, you know, just came together. And like I said, we had via Zoom, you know, we had a lot of time, you know, because nobody was working. So yeah, Celestial Rot was what came out.
So previous to the lockdowns and Celestial Rot, were you guys working in this format also, or was it a lot of like jamming and room writing and stuff like that?
Well, we do have a guitar player that lives an hour away, so he writes a lot, and you know, we were sharing files previously before COVID that way, but most of it was being done in the practice space.
Okay. I'm curious, in terms of writing in the practice space, how fast do songs usually come together for you guys?
Very slow, very slow. This record came together a little bit faster, I think, because, you know, like I keep going back to this, but we had a lot of downtime, so this album came together a lot quicker than the other records. But previously, everything was always really slow with us.
Right. I mean, do you
Probably,
prefer this? Sorry, go ahead.
probably because we do this as a team effort. So that's probably what makes it, take even longer.
Right. I mean, moving forward, do you see yourselves working in this manner, or do you want to
I
go back to
think
the rehearsal room?
I think we'll probably do a lot more writing now, via file sharing and Zoom and things like that, because we get together uh, over that medium a lot more than we can in person, just due
Right.
to everyday life.
Uh, so let's jump into the new album. As you mentioned, it's called Celestial Rot, and it will be coming out on the 3rd of February through Translation Lost Records. Uh, the last time we spoke, so when Crawl Among the Filth came out, uh, you referred to it as your most metal record. How would you compare Celestial Rot to Crawl Among the Filth?
A lot more metal. This is a
Yeah.
lot more. This is the most extreme record we've ever done. And I'm very proud of that.
And can you elaborate on that? Because I'm hearing like a lot of like black metal and almost grindcore type riffs, and even some Morbid Angel sounding sections here and there.
Right. We really, took the deep dive into a lot of different influences on this one. Um, Andy and I, Andy is one of the guitar players. We've been getting more and more into grind and black metal over the last few years, and we've been slowly incorporating that into the sound. We started doing that a little bit with Crawl Among the Filth, but with this one, we really, added much more of those elements into the mix, and it was really smooth process.
So, are you saying it was a conscious attempt to incorporate those faster kind of elements?
I don't know if it was a conscious attempt or it was more, just what we've been into. So that, if we're listening to that, and that's the style of music that we've been, into and been, playing all the time, it's obviously going to come out into the sound.
And has your lineup been consistent for the last 10 years or so?
Yeah, this lineup's been consistent since 2013. And we've
Uh,
played together before too, because this was the lineup for those who were crucified. So we've been playing together for years, and I think that also has helped with the songwriting process, because we've been together for so long now, and we know each other's tendencies a lot more, and I think it's definitely added to the writing process and made things flow a lot better than ever before.
it sounds like your drummer got quite a workout on this album.
Yeah, he did. I don't know if he enjoyed it. Yeah, he did.
When did you guys realize that this album was taking shape the way it is? The way it came out.
I think right away with the first song, we kind of knew we were onto something, or felt like everything was falling into place. And so once that first song got written, the first song was actually the first song on the record is Snake Legion, and that was the first one that we wrote. We wrote for Celestial Rot, and after we got that one down, everything else just came natural.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably the fastest All Out War album. It may be the shortest. I think
It's
it's about 26 minutes.
definitely the shortest.
You
That was
guys,
that actually was a conscious effort to make the song shorter, because we decided early on that we wanted to go straight for the throat. We didn't want a lot of frills. We wanted to cut the fat. So that definitely was the one thing that was a conscious effort.
how come?
What's that?
How come you wanted this album uh, to have that immediacy, that intensity? Why did you want a shorter album?
I just think that we all felt that the songs hit much harder if they were shorter, especially with the styles that we were delving into. So I think we sat down and we said, hey, these songs are going to hit a lot harder if these riffs are shorter and they punch and then they move on.
What does the title refer to? Celestial Rot.
Celestial Rot, basically, been asked this a lot. So basically, it refers to not only the death of the earthly realm, but also the spiritual realm.
Okay.
Sort of rotting heaven.
Right. And the last time you were on, we spoke a lot about the religious themes that All Out War delves into, or that flavor your lyrics. Overall, I mean, is there an overarching theme or concept to the album?
I think it picks up on where Crawl Among the Filth left off. It's very, apocalyptic themes. And All Out War's been delving into apocalyptic themes ever since the creation of the band. And I think this is just a continuation of that.
Yeah. To be clear, though, and this is something that we spoke about the last time you were on, even though people sometimes mistake you as a religious band, you guys are not that.
No, not at all. Not even close. Matter of fact, the opposite of organized religion. I mean, I believe that there's something out there, but it has nothing to do with organized religion.
Okay. I'm curious about your background. Did you grow up with any kind of organized religion?
I, like a lot of people, I was forced to go to church when I was a kid. My parents dropped me off there, and that was that, and nothing stuck, and it was a lot of torture. And I noticed, the hypocrisy of organized religion from a very young age, especially since, it was something that I just saw as, okay, this is something I'm going to be forced to go to, but there's no real, commitment to it at all. It was just like for appearances.
Yeah. I grew up Catholic, and in retrospect, that's probably the best background you can have to get into death metal, because not only are you exposed to like you said, the hypocrisy, but you're also exposed to a lot of gory imagery at a very young age.
Well, and that's when I did get attracted to like the apocalyptic imagery, from that. So you're right on. I agree with you 100%.
Let's talk about the recording of the album.
Kind of opposite effect is what they intended, I think.
Sorry. Can you expand on that?
Well, I think you got exposed. We all got exposed to this stuff, and instead of like embracing the church, I think a lot of people moved away from it.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly. I always think it's, especially now that I'm living in Southeast Asia, where it's a mix of different religions and different cultures. It's hard to explain a lot of the imagery and the symbolism, of like, the hearts wrapped in thorns, and, the hearts on the outside of the body, and, all the dismembered saints. And, I have no, I have no explanation for anyone who didn't grow up with this stuff about why the religion I grew up in is so gore obsessed.
Yeah. That's great.
So let's talk about the recording of the album. Where did you guys end up going to? Which studios did you guys end up recording this in?
We ended up just recording this ourselves this time. We didn't go to any studio. We recorded it in practice space in Brooklyn, and it was our guitar player's practice space, and he recorded the whole thing. I mean, it was definitely different for us, because we're used to that outside perspective, and we didn't have that this time. It was just all on us. So there was a lot of second guessing and a lot of nervousness behind it, but we decided, because we were recording all the songs anyway. So we were basically recording the songs, as demos. And then we were listening to them and we were like, wow, these sound really good. I mean, and it had that raw sound that we were looking for, because we didn't really want these songs to be too produced. We wanted them dirty. We wanted them ugly. And it was coming out that way. And then I shared the songs with Drew from Translation Lost, and Drew right away was all over it. He listened to it and he said, hey, you guys should just put this out. And we thought about it. And so we only had like 4 or 5 songs done at that point, but the bones of a bunch of others. So we said, all right, let's just give it a go, and let's just record these all ourselves. And because we're getting the sound that we want, so there's no sense to really bring in an outsider. So let's just go for it. And it was a great experience. I mean, like I said, it was a lot different. It was a totally different experience, but it was fantastic.
And as you mentioned, your guitarist, Tara Zapuzzo, recorded this in his studio. Is this the first album, or the first All Out War album that Taras worked on as an engineer, as a recording engineer?
Yeah. Yep.
And obviously, as somebody who's intimately familiar with the music, he knew what to bring out. What would you say Taras's approach is to recording?
Very, very loose, very laid back, which definitely is right up our alley. So that worked out well. I mean, I couldn't pinpoint like anything else besides very relaxed, and it made it easy to work with. It made him easy to work with.
And in the past, you've worked with guys like Steve Evatt,
and Steve Evatt is fantastic. By the way, this is nothing against him at all, because he was awesome to work with, and would love to work with him again someday.
Yeah, absolutely. He's I think associated with a certain sound within the style, within the metallic hardcore style. Was that, and you guys talked about liking the rawness of these songs and of the demos that you guys did. Was this something that you were consciously trying to get away from? Did you guys not want to go back to that older, more, I guess, I mean, I don't really know how to describe Steve's sound, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Like it was
yeah, and definitely with this style, that we were going for with Celestial Rot, and with the songs that we had, it was definitely, something we thought about, that, hey, we want this to be more raw, and how can we accomplish that? So no matter who we went to, in the end, that's what we were going to, tell them, hey, we're looking for like a raw sound here. We don't want things to sound too polished. If things are a little off, that's fine. We're going for an ugly sound.
Yeah. And the rawness also helps give it that kind of black metal, almost second wave feeling. Like there's a lot of like, grit and harshness and tremolo to this album.
Oh, definitely. That's what we're going for.
So the album was mixed and mastered by someone who's been on this podcast before. Tell me about Errol Elob from Teeth, who worked on this.
Well, we jumped in with Errol because, one, Drew already had a relationship with Errol, and we were looking for an outside perspective with the mix, because we weren't really sure where to go with the mix. So we thought we needed an outside ear, and Errol stepped in and did a fantastic job. So thank you, Errol. And we were familiar with Errol's bands anyway, so we were fans of Teeth.
What would you say, Rolly, Errol brought to the sound overall?
I think he definitely, contributed to making it really pop more than it did, before we sent it off to him. I think he definitely, put his stamp on it. I mean, because he's like, not only is he in bands that we're fans of. But he's recorded and he's done bands that we were definitely, into. So, like I said, I think he brought more of a pop to it, made it a little bit more brutal than it was prior to sending it off to him.
Was there a particular album really worked on as a engineer that you guys were uh, particularly fans of?
I think our place of worship is silence.
Yeah,
It is the one that really stood out to me.
and that's super raw. That's like
Yeah,
that's almost like a
great.
garage recording.
I love
Yeah,
it. Yeah, I love
yeah,
that record.
yeah. The album will be coming out shortly, and as we started this conversation, we talked about how a lot of your promotional plans for the last album were scuttled because of the pandemic. Are you guys going to be able to pick up where you left off? I realize you're not touring as much as you used to back in the day.
I hope so. We're going out with Morpheus Descends, which is a old school death metal band that we've been friends with forever, and Disassociate, which is a grind band from New York City that we've been again friends with forever. So we're gonna go do some shows
Ralphie
with them.
Boy.
Ralphie Boy, right, right. So yeah, we've been friends with Ralphie forever. He used to book us a lot back in the day. So Disassociates back together. So we're gonna do a run with them in a couple weeks, and then we're gonna go do some stuff on our own. And then we have the Decibel Metal and Beer Fest coming up in April, which we're psyched for that. So thank you, Decibel Magazine, for hooking us up with that show. And we got a bunch of other things in the works. And we'll be back in Japan in September. So we're looking forward to that.
And if I'm not mistaken, this will be your first album for Translation Lost, right?
Yes. We had
How did
talked
they?
with Drew, before about possibly doing stuff with him, and Drew's just a great guy, so we're psyched to be working with him.
And if I'm not mistaken, Drew was in Starkweather, right?
Yes, yeah, he
Yeah.
plays drums for Starkweather.
Did you guys know each other back in the day? Your
No,
two bands, at
no,
least.
because when we were playing with Starkweather, Drew wasn't the drummer; Harry was the drummer. But I mean, we've been really lucky ever since we've gotten off of Victory because everybody that we've worked with has been awesome. So we worked with Clint from Organized Crime for the first two records back, and then worked with Buddy from Crawl Among the Filth, and now we work with the Drew. So we've been lucky to work with such great people.
That's great. So when we spoke back in 2019, we talked a lot about uh, what keeps All Out War going, and why you keep releasing albums. At this point in time, it's been over 30 years since you guys first started, and more than 25 since you put out your first album. I'm curious how do you think people will remember you guys? What do you think your legacy will be?
I don't know. That's a hard question. I would hope that people remember us as a band that was sincere and a band that um, inspired them in some way. You know, um, it's a real Adrian. It's a real hard question.
I
Great question, but
understand.
that's a hard one.
Yeah, I understand. And
I
it's
mean, I was
not
wondering, just a band that was sincere in everything we did. You know, I mean, because it really has been a passion to play in this band, for this long. And it's been such a huge part of all of our lives, and we definitely are sincere about it. We're in this for no other reason besides the love of the music, and that's it.
in the time that you guys have been around and all the bands that you've played with and the places that you've toured, uh, is there one place that you haven't been to, or one band that you haven't gotten a chance to play with that you wish you'd played with?
Um, as far as places go, I would love to go to Australia, and I would love to go to Southeast Asia and play shows there because those are places that we've never been. Um, As far as bands go, I mean, I just really enjoy playing a lot of the more underground metal shows. So, like I would love to play with some of the more modern, underground bands, especially Spectral Wound. I saw them in April and they were phenomenal, and I've been into them, a lot for the past 2 years, 3 years. Just a lot of the more underground stuff. I would love to play more of those shows.
Cool. And besides
I mean, and
playing,
then Bolt Thrower. If we ever got to play with Bolt Thrower, that would be amazing.
yeah, absolutely. And besides touring and playing, is there anything else you guys want to do? I mean, it seems like even at this stage in your career, you're trying new things with your music and uh, pushing your music into new directions.
So you're saying outside of music?
No, no, no. I mean, outside of touring and playing shows, is there anything else you want to do? Uh, like, is there, have you guys always wanted to? You wrote a 26-minute album. Do you guys want to write like a 26-minute prog song with All Out War?
No,
Is that
but
something you guys always wanted to do?
I think I would definitely want to try to top this record as far as just brutality and bringing in even more extreme influences. So I would love to do that, and I think that that's the goal for the next record. And the next record will be even shorter than this record. I think if we get a 20-minute record, that would be fantastic. 20 minutes of just sheer brutal insanity.
Tell your drummer to start working on his cardio.
Yeah, he's gonna have to do that. He's definitely gonna have to start jogging. Maybe take up cross country bike riding or something.
So by the time people hear this podcast, Celestial Rot will be out through Translation Lost Records. Mike, what's the best way to get it? How can people order this album?
I think the best way to get it is to order it straight through Translation Loss. Go to their website and order the record. They have they're running low on the variants that they have now as far as the vinyl goes, but there's plenty of CDs and cassettes, I'm sure. Um, but definitely pick up the different color variants while they're here because they've been selling pretty good. Really happy with that.
Tell me a little bit about the variants that Translation Loss created for this.
I mean, Drew does a great job. So what I noticed with Drew is, there's always a method to his madness, and all the different variants match the cover in some way, which is awesome. So he did such a great job, and that was one of the reasons why, besides Drew being a great guy, one of the reasons why we wanted to work with him was because we were always really impressed with the product. So we were always really impressed with that.
Right. And are there going to be 3 different variants?
Right now, there's actually 6. So
Okay.
Revelation has a variant which is yellow. Decibel had the bone white, which is sold out. I think the Rev yellow is sold out also. And then there's an orange variant, and then there's one that's just specific to the band. So can only get that through us. And then Drew has his too.
Cool.
And I mean, they look fantastic. They came out really, really nice.
And the album will be available digitally through your Bandcamp page, right?
Yes. Yes. And through
And
Bandcamp, we'll also be putting up the band versions at some point, but we're going to try to sell most of them at shows. So if there's anything left over, as far as the exclusive vinyl that we have, we'll put that up on the Bandcamp.
cool. And if people want to follow All Out War online, what's the best way to do that?
Through Instagram. I don't know what the specific address is, but Instagram is the best way.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, just thanks for having me on again. I had a great experience the first time and an equally great experience this time. So, Adrian, thank you. for having us or having me.
Much appreciated, Mike. Tell Ralphie I said hi.
Oh, definitely. I definitely will.